Smithsonian Green Village project is designed to be passive house. You walk up to a house like this. The only difference between this house and a normal conventional house, this house is going to use net zero energy.
We were all here learning.
A company called Blueprint Robotics was preordained to be a partner on the project.
We have a 200,000 square foot facility here.
And for the SERC cottages, this was in full use.
But what's incredible is how fast it goes once it arrives from the factory.
So over the course of 5 days, 6 days, they got 2 cottages erected from a panelization standpoint under roof.
This is so exciting to watch. It is so much fun. You've got workers all over the place, things going up faster than you can imagine. It's looking cool, people are happy, people are pumped. It's exciting to do this type of work. At the conclusion of the project, and I am exceptionally proud of what the team accomplished here. The energy performance is through the roof. The client is very happy with the final product, and we basically achieved exactly what we set out to do.
It feels really good to be pretty much at the end of the completion of the project. The whole project's been a challenge. It's new for everybody. We've gotten through the construction of the buildings. We've had some hiccups in the road, but we've overcome them with our partners.
It's been a learning process for everyone involved to ensure that we're giving as most energy efficient of a cottage, of a structure that we could for a federal government agency that was new to them as well.
These houses perform remarkably well. This cottage will use about 7,000 kilowatt hours of energy per year, which is great considering that the average home in Maryland uses about 14,000. So using simple math, we already have a 50% savings in energy consumption. That's phenomenal when you think that we're also putting solar panels on the top of the roof. These houses are producing over 200% of how much electrical power they consume day or night. That means each house is powering a second. Think about that. These houses are producing the most clean energy when society is producing the most carbon. And I think that is the game changer. I think there is a real opportunity for us to make a real impact in terms of reducing our carbon footprint in terms of the built environment by building houses that not only take care of themselves, but they take care of the neighbor down the street.
So as we got down to the final finishes, we were putting in carpeting. We already had our cabinets in, we had painting done, flooring was going in, and we found out that we weren't meeting our air infiltration requirements for certified passive house. At the beginning of the test, the air infiltration per cottage was roughly 330 to 350 cubic feet per minute. With our building envelope size, we had to get down to approximately 244 cubic feet per minute.
If I've said it once, I've said it 1,000 times on this project. With passive house, it goes to every little nook and cranny detail. We had put all this time and energy into it. We had done all this quality control. We had caulked every nook and cranny. There wasn't a hole we could think of or imagine that we had not sealed up. And we still were missing the passive house target by about 50 CFM. To put that in perspective, it was the equivalent of a hole that big. There wasn't one big hole in this house that size. It was just a little crack here and a little crack there.
All of us were nervous, especially Sean, our superintendent. He was ready to throw his hands up. He wasn't sure what else could be done.
It wasn't disappointing. Frustrating, yes, but that's the nature of the business. Construction-wise, there's always going to be something that gets in your way, but again, you just have to engage the right people to work the situation out.
Our only last solution that we found was this product called Aero Barrier, which is a fine aerosolized spray sprayed in the interior of the cottages, and it will seek all of the possible avenues of infiltration, cavities, crevices in the building envelope membrane, and will seal up to 1/2 of an inch of opening. They got that done, and one right after another, we were passing the test.
It was a load off of everybody's mind. We knew we were going to get it. It was just the extent that we had to go through to accomplish it.
In the end, all 6 houses came in to within 190 to 215 CFM, so below the passive house requirement for our certification.
Often you have to be creative with solutions, and you need to identify resources you have that are readily available that can give you a competitive edge. But the Smithsonian told us that they wanted us to aspire to use sustainable products and come up with good solutions. I think that the trim solution with what they're doing with fallen trees in Baltimore is just so common sense that it was hard not to incorporate it into this project.
So on the SERC Green Village project, Bosley Moldings provided the architectural trim and millwork. So you may not know this, but 36 million trees a year fall that end up in landfills, fundamentally. We're returning those back into the local economy and into the construction industry. So the tree falls, it's milled, it's brought into our factory, we turn it into moldings and trim, and it goes right back into our community. And so offering alternatives to companies like Trident and others who are involved in green building projects just makes sense to us, and that's how we will support them.
I think this is where our industry just needs to evolve. We need to find innovation. We need to find ways to be better at building. So even at the beginning of this project, I knew that this was going to be important. Having the opportunity to do this here allowed us to learn an awful lot about the process, what works, what doesn't, where the risks are. And it's funny because here we are at the conclusion of a project. You feel as if you're finding closure and you're wrapping things up. But honestly, I'm just getting started. I want to bring this to Baltimore. Baltimore has so much going for it. I mean, it's a vibrant city. It's got great cultural institutions, great medical and academic institutions. I mean, it's got all of these advantages that you think it would just be crushing it, but it's really the one city that's struggling the most on the East Coast. And why is that? And it's because it has these structural poverty problems. Why am I bringing this to Baltimore? Well, it's the housing that's causing the structural poverty problems.
Tackling the issue of vacant homes across Baltimore.
Issues with vacant homes are as numerous as they are serious. They're linked with violence and they symbolize decades of decline.
A devastating fire in West Baltimore, highlighting a danger that lurks in neighborhoods all over the city.
In the past week and a half, 8 homes in West Baltimore have collapsed.
Collapsed right on top of a car, parked next to it, with the man stuck inside.
They quickly knocked down the flames that had also spread to the house next door.
When firefighters got to the scene, they saw that the fire had then spread to 9 other row homes in that area.
Concern on the block and throughout Baltimore are the 15,000 vacant or abandoned buildings and the dangers they pose.
Why is it still standing? Vacant since 2010. It's been cited in the past for no registration. The home was also offered in tax sale because of outstanding liens and fines, but there was no market for it, so it stayed privately owned and abandoned.
Many people were thrown out of these homes while they had promises made to them to revitalize this community, and years later, these homes are still vacant.
I think it's just up there with like a public health crisis at this point. If it's one thing I've learned, it's that every single house is different. You can't treat anything like it's the same. Like I call them like their own little entity. Like it's its own little baby that I have to treat, nurture, care for, and bring to life. I mean, certain assumptions, yes, like assuming that all of these houses have lead paint in them. That's a fair assumption. This house, just to show the numbers, like this house was acquired for $3,000. When I saw the house and when I really got inside of it, the first floor and the second and the third floor had caved in inside of itself. There was a half of a roof on the house. If we go upstairs, you'll see that half of it looks one way and half of it looks the other, because we did manage to keep that first half. We call these like blue sky houses or Swiss cheese houses because you can just look up, you see the sky while you're in the house.
It's depressing because when you look at it, the problem only exists in the unloved parts of Baltimore. There are some parts of Baltimore beautiful, immaculate, but in the unloved and the forgotten parts of Baltimore, it's like, well, what about us?
Trident's strategy for bringing this to Baltimore is kind of nuanced, and it requires having a lot of team players. The great thing is we actually put that team together.
Cherry Hill Strong and Trident have been working together to forge this really meaningful partnership. I mean, Baltimore is a historic neighborhood. We know that well before federally there was anything called redlining, that Baltimore City, was pioneering in that way. And so being able to put like housing and housing justice in alignment with the type of like environmental justice and energy efficiency that Trident and Brendan has been able to really like innovate on in the ways that we're looking at building housing was very, very interesting to me.
We just need to admit that some of these houses are past their useful life. There's a lot of housing that is not salvageable. It's done. You can't expect to have a better socioeconomic outcome if you don't focus on the environment in which you're investing in. It's as simple as that. Trident's strategy for Baltimore is not to go into one neighborhood and drop 200 units, because it's just not going to work. The market in that neighborhood can't absorb that many units at once. However, there's plenty of neighborhoods that need our attention. And so we can drop 10 to 20 units in this one neighborhood, and then we can move on to another neighborhood across town. Then we can go to Cherry Hill. Then we're back up onto the east side and to the west side. We can go around the city, dropping 10, 20 units at a time, and slowly transform these cities into vibrant neighborhoods again. That smaller scale developer might only be able to do 20 units at a time, and that's actually a consequence of their financial capacity. They are then captive to the construction process. If the construction process is slow and inefficient and takes up over a year, then they're only able to do 20 units a year. But what if the construction process was halved or even a third of the time? Using the Trident method, we could be delivering 20 new units in any given neighborhood in 5 months rather than 14 to 15 months. And this graph that you're looking at, this is based on 6 developers only doing 20 units at a time. But could you imagine if the developers were able to do more than 20 units at a time? Or more importantly, there were more than 6 of them? What I'm developing is a turnkey, high energy efficient, top-notch quality product that is gonna last another 50 to 100 years. We're gonna rebuild that community for that community.
This right here is the fix. The thing that people fighting about and talking about, here's our solution right here. Trident has it. You are offering developers who would not have had this opportunity to do it on this large of a scale. You're offering them an opportunity to essentially like operate and be their own prime. You're feeding into the small business community, and you are positioning yourself as a partner to the community and not the savior of the community.
Passive housing is just the way of the future. I mean, it's the way that we all need to build and we all need to think moving forward. I do think that there needs to be a lot of extra subsidy added and tied to passive housing to enable us to do this work.
You're investing in a product like this. You're getting an investment against climate change, but you're also getting an investment in workforce development. You're also getting an investment in affordable housing. Oh, and by the way, you're getting rid of that blighted vacant across the street. If you have to subsidize something that has 4 beneficial returns.
Energy efficiency isn't just like a pie in the sky theory that only has crunchy goals, right? It has real life connected goals for families that are struggling.
Don't forget the other issues that we haven't even tapped on that this helps to resolve. The crime and the workforce issue.
Construction has a horrible problem right now with its workforce. In fact, the average age of a construction worker is getting higher every year. I think the average age right now is at 43.
How cool would it be if we had this project going and hey, regardless of your skill set, regardless of where you are, you don't have to pick up a squeegee stick. You don't have to pick up a gun to make money. You can go and pick up the phone and say, hey, I want to work with Trident.
You don't need to be a technician who can manage a heat pump to tape a window or to install insulation. That means any of us can do this.
I was standing actually at the corner of Pratt and President with a woman that is really focused on the youth and workforce development. And we're looking at the squeegee kids. It just dawned on me right then and there, like the motion that they're doing is exactly the same motion of drywall finishing. I mean, that's taking a drywall knife and scraping over all the screw heads. I think by having abundance of work opportunities in their neighborhoods where they don't need a car to drive to is a way to get them into the trades.
Brendan and I, we like this. Just about a week ago, Brendan was in our office talking to a squeegee kid who had just decided to retire his squeegee stick. Brendan hired him. That guy's working with Brendan right now, his dream job, construction. Completely blew me away and just changed my whole perspective on what this partnership is going to mean for Baltimore and Baltimore's youth.
We're all just super excited about not displacing people, avoiding gentrification, and so I love this city, and I think that's That's what gets me up in the morning, knowing that, you know, we're here to make the city better. That's what it's about.
So I think that marrying passive housing and energy efficient housing with the type of comprehensive community-based and community-led work that we're building in Cherry Hill and across Baltimore, I think we have something on our hands of a solution.
You know, I got 6 communities that are over the moon excited about me being able to deliver this product to them, right? Because they see the potential, they live the challenges that I'm trying to resolve for them, right? I'm just trying to help them do the good work that they're doing.